It's nice to be here, and thank you all for coming. um, I'm reading today about a topic that all of you are well acquainted with, some more than others, and I have some wonderful passages that are light and humorous and thoughtful and whatever. And I will be reading from First Aid White. You know, some of you have heard of it. Definitely, I'm very fond of it. And all of his work all the way through. He tends to write on topics. Speaking to the microphone. Okay. He intends to write poems about topics, and one of them is aging. So we will be hearing that. And then I have been collecting over the years interesting articles I find on aging. So I have a whole bunch, and I'll read some passages from this idea about a subject you all are well acquainted with. Okay. So, so this is actually a little sermon on old. It's always surprisingly new to those actually growing older. The stranger in the mirror, a mortal testament to the rigors of the journey we seem to have undergone, in the daily and surprising newness of recognizing we are old. One thing we know for certain, that stranger in the mirror is not a true outer representation of the new inner fresh life still being born are inside us. The fact that we are surprised by age might be the most amusing, surprising, and even comic fact of all. Advancing age, whether we are 35 or 75 or 85, is always extraordinarily fresh in its appearance. We keep meeting ourselves as if for the first time in entirely new guises and disguises. Age, despite its age-old dynamic, always does take everyone by surprise, both in the mild shock of seeing ourselves as if for the first time in the passing shop window, and also in how others deign to treat us, addressing not our true inner self, but a self they have assigned to the outline we make, to the lines in our faces, to our silhouette, to certain behaviors and misconceptions we are troubled to think we might be unconsciously be reinforcing. Age is an accusation in the court of mortality. And there is a solid foundational part of us that knows for certain we have been unjustly and purposefully framed, and that we stand before both judge and jury perfectly innocent of the crime. We look into the mirror and do not see a proper representation of our inner selves. We actually accuse ourselves as others accuse us. We see someone who seems to have committed a felony on our behalf. Seeing our reflection, we feel we are subject to guilt by association with this person looking back at us. We see the reflection of some shifty and untrustworthy individual given to aging far faster than what we experience on the inside. But someone we gaze at uneasily and guiltily, knowing that we have somehow unconsciously aided and abetted that same process. Our outer older self is someone we may have accompanied from the inside out, but someone we know only at a strange distance. We see someone in the mirror, buffeted by wind, weather, and heartbreak, who has made a difficult journey. We see someone who has suffered through making that journey. We see what hurt them, and we remember what might have worn them down over the years. But in that reflection, we see nothing of the new complexion continuing to emerge from within that we intuit is our real self. a self that seems to still carry the necessary innocence for the journey, waiting just beyond our present grasp. Old is never us, and the intuition may be a true one. Even in the vulnerabilities that occur approaching death, the mind and body revisit and re-inhabit the younger body of the younger self we once were, shrugging off in that elemental memory any disease or any burdens recently shouldered. The essence of the human life might always, at every age, be just getting ready to be ready. Every new measure of our increasing age, whether 18 or 80, seems to demand a new inhabitation of youthfulness, a way of looking forward independent of outer form, a sense of standing at a new threshold, an influence without which our future life withers under trembling fears that tend to be dressed up as a wisely gathered cynicism. Old is a necessary shedding, not only of the need to have a younger, outer athletic body, but the shedding of the way we understood age itself. We may anticipate being old as denoting a closing down. The merciful perspective is that we are only closing down because at our mature core, we feel everything more keenly than we ever did in our younger, immature, and immortal days. Age, eldership, and an ever keener physical memory of successive heartbreaks, combined with bodily understanding of our increasing vulnerability, and have us, old as we are, experiencing life like a heartbroken adolescent. The only cure for personal heartbreak is to hold a greater context larger than ourselves, a greater context, and you might say, a greater sense of humor. And thus the puzzling accusation of being old asks us to learn to live again as a different kind of witness to the disappointment living in our reflected face, or in all the many faces of our society. Seeing the disappointment ingrained in our own face, we learn compassion for what others carry carved in their face. We understand at a deeper level the inevitable heartbreak that others are powerless to help, and how many times we have been powerless to help ourselves. Seeing ourselves in the mirror, we come to understand a deeper sense of witness and the way our companionship and compassion needs to be extended to others beyond the lonely face we see looking back from that same mirror. We start to invite ourselves out from behind the surface image, and we begin to invite others out from behind theirs. We magnify this invitation and make it all the more powerful by refusing to give others or ourselves easy, gratuitous advice. Refusing to give others easy or gratuitous advice. Aging is our apprenticeship to both increase presence and increasing disappearance at one and the same time. Just as we could never fully understand in our 20s who would we become in our 50s, we come to know whether we are a believer or unbeliever that we will never understand fully who or what we will find on the other side of our approaching disappearance. We give up on what is easily visible in order to go on in a more invisible way. Age and maturity that the most admired always combine to create a fine sense of humor about who we are, who we were, and what we actually contributed to others. A gathering sense that even with a massive reservoir of cash that we have built in our retirement accounts, the rest of creation might very well be believed to see us go earlier rather than later in the universal program of events. To make way for something less guarded, less defended, less abstracted, and a little more willing to be a miracle, risk itself and all the other miracles of life. It may be instructive to think that creation seems to have taken a magnificent risk with our first appearance on this earth, and might be just that little bit disappointed once we stop risking ourselves in a manner equally to be admired. Old transforms, transmutes, and transfigures desire. Eros and attraction do not fall away with age. Desire stays alive. More intriguing for the quicksilver manner of its transformation. The axis of attraction only moves from the outer complexion in its attempts to call in other bodies and other lives to an inner axis of attraction, an inner complexion, calling not only for physical union with the meeting, with the greater invisible body that we intuit has awaited us all along, a union that is an inherited birthright, a very physical and very non-physical sense of belonging to the ages. Those desires we often follow growing into life are as a signal of our glamorous powers. The unused boat, that was something we could constantly mention. The second home, I kept our vacations just as busy as our home life. All are suddenly seen to have been not doorways to adventure, but shields against any true inner discovery. And all, in the end, too narrow, too ungenerous, and even in the grand perspective, quaintly absurd. We realize that many of the objects we thought of as the natural gifts of an earned maturity were simply new toys, appropriate only to a series of second infancies. Age without maturity is always the second helplessness of a childhood, much worse than the first one. Age combined with maturity not only holds childhood's core understanding of play being far more important than any particular toy, but most especially, age combined with an earned maturity keeps youth's precocious and visionary relationship with the future alive. Younger people's futures, and even to be generous with futures that we cannot yet fully understand. Youth has the burning need to travel on from the here and now. Old has the possibility of understanding that no matter where it finds itself in the world, here and now is the biggest, most challenging, and most interesting journey of all, demanding everything for our proper arrival. No matter whether we are called old or not, no matter our chronological age, at 30, or even in our not too distant future, at 130, in the midst of our life, at the shoreline of our death, at the very center of all the edges and unattractive horizons that have been hesitating at the word "oh," there can burn the rose fire of an inner compass, pointing to a new true self. A compass hidden for so long, but now, despite every other outer difficulty, disability, or disappearance, able to blossom in new and strangely youthful directions. Old is not a state that replaces the word young, but a fierce and uncompromising invitation we have earned. A fierce and uncompromising invitation we have earned exactly because of our imminent disappearance, to the unfolding, eternal, and ever surprisingly new. That's David White. And this is his book, Consolations 2, the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. So it's alphabetical. The next one will be public. And one after that will be relationship, reverie, and routine, whether ordinary or shame, sleep. He's got something to say on all of the states that we live in. So that was the series. I also have a wonderful collection, mainly from Anne Lamott, who's one of my favorite poets and writers. And I don't know, she just really nails for me what the truth of life is. She was born in 1954, so she's 10 years, 15 younger than the youngest of us, but she's really wise. So she writes in little snippets. So there's one paragraph out of its introduction. She says, so many indignities are involved in aging, and yet so many graces. The perfectionism that had run me ragged and has kept me scared and wired my whole life has abated. The idea of perfectionism at 60, she wrote this, is comical. One like me wore non-matching black flats out on stage. In my experience, most of us age away from brain and ambition toward heart and soul. And we bathe in relief that things are not worse. When I was younger, I was fixated on looking good and impressing people and being so big in the world. By 60, I didn't care nearly as much what people thought of me. Most. And anyway, but now you know, by 60, people are rarely thinking of beauty. They are thinking about their own finances, family problems, and worries. So she now writes a bunch of little snippets on various topics. And this one's called, at 33, I knew everything. At 69, I know something much more pure, much more important. Today I woke up old and awful in every way. I simultaneously cannot bear the news and cannot turn it off. It's Cobra Eye, not hypnosis. Gaza, Israel, shootings. The world is as dark as a scarab. I have 2 memorial services on my calendar this week. A dear friend is in the hospital waiting for a liver, dying. She keeps assuring me I ain't in no way tired. And I say, oh, stop with that, or I'm not going to visit again. I'm exhausted just driving 90 minutes to and from San Francisco to see her. My body hurt quite a lot when I got out of bed this morning, and I limped around like Granny Clumpet for the first hour until it unseized. My mind hurt, my heart hurt, and I hated almost everyone except my husband, my grandson, and one of the dogs. I don't think I could have borne up under all this 20 years ago when I thought I knew so much about life. That was not nearly as much as I knew at 33, which is when we know more than ever we will again. But age has given me the ability to hang out and predicting how things will sort out this time, mostly, depending on how I've slept. In many of Albert Bierstein's Western paintings, there is a darkness on one side, maybe a mountain in its shadow. And towards the middle, animals graze or drink from a lake or stream, and then at the far right of the sky flashes of light, like shawls across the corners of the earth. The great darkness says to me what I often say to heartbroken friends. I don't know, not yet. In my younger days, when the news was too awful, I sought meaning in it. Not so much now. The meaning is that we have come through so much and we take care of each other. And against all odds, even imperfectly, we still dance, but in certain ways it hurts. Okay, always. The portals of age also lead to the fulfillment, indeed earth-shaking, understanding that people are going to do what people are going to do. They do not want my always good ideas on how to have easier lives and possibly become slightly less annoying. At age 40, I began to notice that I fretted less of other people's opinions. At the age of 45, I discovered I wasn't all that impressed with my own. I realized the obvious a very long time ago. The only things we can learn are the things we don't already know. I don't know is an invitation to learn something new. What can we do as the creaking elevators of age slowly descend upon us? The main solution is not to Google new symptoms late at night. But I also try to get outside every day, ideally with friends, old friends. Even thoughts of them are my ballast. All that I love, loyalty, those delicious memories, the gossip. Recently, I was walking along the cliffs above the Pacific with one of these old friends. We go back 50 years. She's 84, short and sturdy with fuzzy hair like mine. Every so often, she bent down somewhat tentatively and picked up small items that she'd then tuck into a small cloth pouch they got from the belt. What are you doing? I'm picking up micro knitting, bottle caps, and bits of wrappers. I try to help where I can. I, remi- I reminded her of an old story along these lines of a sparrow and a horse. A great warlord, a tiny sparrow lying on its back with its feet in the air, squished tightly shut in effort. The horse asks what it's doing. I'm trying to hold back the darkness. The horse roars with laughter. That is so pathetic. What do you weigh? About an ounce? And the sparrow replies, one does what one can. This is what older age means. We do what we can. You pick up smaller things and move more tentatively. We are so physically vulnerable at old age. We have caught each other a lot. Come through some periods of darkness and unsurvivable losses. But friendship makes it all a rowing machine for the soul. We can take it as long as we feel and give love and laugh gently at ourselves as we fall apart. 2 years ago, at age 75, I moved into a retirement village. I had just retired and I spent, this is actually not her voice, but a letter she got. I had just retired and I spent the first year startling awake, thinking I had overslept. I buried myself in my apartment, reading for hours, taking naps, cooking dinner, and going for an occasional walk. But In the midst of adjusting to such a dynamic change, I latched onto a group of residents who had moved in about the same time as I did. We started having dinner together once a week, and now we do other things together. We leave campus every other month to have dinner or lunch out. Some of us meet for breakfast. Some of us take walks together or exercise in the pool. But mostly we eat, laugh loudly and often, and just hang out because we can and we want to. I have found the rhythm of retirement and been blessed with a renewed joy of friendship that I did not have time enough to embrace before. Aging brings lots of new experiences, some good and others terrible, but the prospect of new stories and different views opens my steps as I hurry along to dinner with my new friends. Two ways to live your life. One is that as if nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. There are obvious miracles all around us: love, nature, music, art. We drugs to somehow us so well, this is the central miracle of our lives. Some of you have children who were told you couldn't have. Some of you were sent home to die. And have you ever seen a grain of sand when you have fully covered by yourself? It looks like a genius. Burying ourselves is rare. About 100 million children were released each time your parents made love. And one dogged little guy made you into exactly you, the exact being who woke up again today. Our eyes open, our ears open, and if we don't work that well, we have devices to help them hear better. Our hearts are beating, our lungs are bellowing in and out, diaphragms dropping. Sometimes we need others to help us. Both are amazing. The strength to rise or the loving help. This is one of the superpowers of growing old. You know that things are probably going to work out without your intense, controlling it. Maybe it will get your way, which I hate, but the royal bonds of misunderstanding and hurt will settle. Older age gives us the knowledge of how powerless we are, not helpless so much, but with little control over life's results. I don't love this. You come to forks in the road where you think, I can't bear this, can't do this, can't fix this. I see no reason for hope. Plus, what if Iran gets involved, and what if there's a nuclear exchange, and what if this is the end? Then you are old. You remember countless other fallings out, other miserable patches with people you love, where peace was restored. I believe in the resiliency of relationships, even if I struggle not to be initially devastated every time I disappoint someone. This is the main advice I give younger people. Get troubled and stuck, I say, yes, it's really awful. Just do one good thing, and then another, then breathe. You're going to be okay. I tell them what John Lennon said. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. This is all. Okay. Yes, Annie Watt has been writing weekly column in the Washington Post, January, February, and March, and I have many more pages of wisdom that I didn't get to, but I maybe will bring some more sometime. They're really precious.
Yeah.
Thank you personally. I had every reason in the world not to be. I just took down my art show and said, I just wanted to hear that. I have the biggest smile. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.